Thank you,
snowboarding.
Thank you, snowboarding.
Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Chris Cracknell. You are listening to Thank You Snowboarding, of course. The podcast uncovering all aspects of UK snowboarding culture and its rich history, from people hand building boards, not necessarily just in Scotland, but all around the UK back in the 80s, to the current crop of young shredders killing it on the world scene. But also there's lifers out there who make snowboarding their daily business all around the world, and they've all come from, some of them come from the UK and have created a lifestyle out of it, and it's those stories that we are trying to uncover here. So how are you? Yeah, the end of the season is here. This is the last episode of the season, and we have kept a good one for you. I'm also just back from the Alps, getting the kids on snowboards, and great to see season air culture is still in swing. There are loads of people making snowboarding their lives, and it's great to see, even though I feel like I'm now a bit of a generation on from it. But yeah, it was a very familiar kind of scene out there. Loads of young people going snowboarding, getting in the park, all the good stuff. So yeah, and that's what we're celebrating on this podcast. And we do this with the kind support of our friends at the Snowboard Asylum, who've been looking after snowboarders for the last 35 years. They have what you need, and we'll talk a bit more about that at the end. So this episode, the season ender of season 2, we started this season with Chris Moran, and it seemed only fitting that we get Chris's old dryslope riding partner and possibly the GOAT of British snowboarding. I think Mia might take that title at some point, but for a lot of people, the GOAT of British snowboarding is still Steve Bailey. And I've been friends with Steve for a long time, but our paths haven't crossed that much in recent years. We kind of did a season in Les Arcs, not together, but hung out a lot together back in the 90s. And we also did spend a season living together in Bourg Saint-Maurice. So yeah, me and Steve were good friends, but sadly, as I said, our paths haven't crossed that much in recent years. He lives up in North Wales. I'm obviously on the coast in Brighton. And so, yeah, our paths don't cross that often, but they did cross at the ski show at the end of last year, and we talked about doing this, and he was well up for it. So sadly, we couldn't do it in person, but we did manage to jump on a Zoom a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed this conversation. So here we go. Let's do it. Steve Bailey, the GOAT. So where are you? You're in Chester, right?
I am in Wales, North Wales, Mynydissa.
How have you, I was going to say ended up, but that would be like the end of things, wouldn't it? How come you're in North Wales?
When I moved back to the UK, there wasn't too many places I could afford to buy a house. So just into North Wales works pretty well for me.
When you moved back to the UK, where were you?
I've been living abroad pretty much from the age of 18. Well,
well, yeah, I guess for snowboarding.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I finally up sticks and came back to this country, then for good, then looked at getting a house, and this was really one of the only areas in the north that I could afford.
But someone said that you've been doing a lot of climbing. Is that?
I have.
Was that also like a draw to that area?
Not really. First of all, the draw to the area was we might get some snow and I might be able to hike up the local hills and snowboard down them.
Oh, yeah.
But in 21 years that I've been here, I think there's been like probably 4 days where there's been enough snow to kind of handle that.
Shit.
So
21 years.
Out. Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. We're getting old, aren't we?
Very much so. A big 5-0 for me and thee.
Yeah, we both reached and breached that last year, didn't we?
We certainly did.
Oh man, how are you feeling for it?
I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just started my climbing season again about 2 months ago.
Okay.
So feeling strong and healthy.
How are your big toes?
Big toes are fine. I don't go to the extremes. I like to be comfortable.
Okay. Just that Chris Moran, who I just said I saw this morning, apparently Pete Turvey had a theory of your sort of springiness on a snowboard, and it was all down to your big toes.
Well, yeah, I've got very long toes. I think Pete nicknamed them the Boeing toes. Yeah. And then it kind of stuck from there.
Was that when you were living? Did you live in the caravan?
I did live in the infamous caravan. Not for as long as Mr. Moran, but I was there for quite a bit of it. A lot of parties, not a lot of double glazing left in the caravan by the end of it. It was interesting.
All right, well, we'll get to that. We'll sort of do. I mean, you've got a long history, so we'll kind of get to the Chamonix caravan stories in good time. But Chris was also saying, so going back to like, I'm guessing you were skating before snowboarding.
Yeah.
Around Manchester.
Around Manchester, doing all the sort of street areas of Manchester,
so
crown courts and everything.
Yeah, so Chris was telling me that you possess the gnarliest slam he's ever seen, where you sort of cavemaned onto a rail and I think your foot clipped the board. You realised you were going to come down on the rail on your nuts, so you put your hands down to stop that happening, and you ended up like landed on your hands on your nuts, and then because your hands were like basically between your legs, you then smashed your face into the floor. And he said it's like the gnarliest slam that he's ever seen.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Do you remember that
one? Good
one?
enough to just get me a can of Coke afterwards, and that sorted me out. Yeah, very painful slam. I've actually done that also with a snow skate in teen.
Oh yeah.
Cavemanning onto a rail and throwing the board a bit too far, and my back foot doesn't go on, so you end up smashing your nuts on the rail. It's not a pleasant way to have a slam.
Do you do much snow skating?
Yeah.
Have you got into snow skating?
I'd like to. I can't say I have. I've done a few handrails on them, and I rode down half a teen mountain on one.
Right.
I've done a few bits and pieces on them, but I'd like to actually do a lot more of it. It's good.
Well, that sort of reminds me of shred sleds. Are you doing something with them? Or is there talk of you doing something with them?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Okay, well, I'll keep my powder dry on that one then. No, but that would be... Oh, actually, if you're going to be at the board test, then those guys are normally there with a little snow skate set up.
How about you? You've been doing a bit of snow skating?
Hell no. I've got no business on a snow skate. I had no business on a skate.
I remember seeing you on a skateboard.
No, I never really... Sort of the one time where I might have got into it was when went down to Marseille with Munson and Kenty at the end of a season. And the idea to sort of skate the bowls, and there's like a beginner's bowl, and I was like, yeah, I could sort of get into this, but we had to push like about 2 miles along the seafront, and one of the bearings on the deck I was using was fucked, and it was just really difficult just to push. And everyone was like, come on, and I was pushing like mad, and just thinking I hate skateboarding, like, and just kind of it just never clicked with me really, because it wasn't skateboarding. Well, where I grew up, it took you to sort of the places that you didn't want to hang out. That was where you had to do it. Whereas snowboarding took me to mountains. And skateboarding is really difficult. And
it hurts a lot.
And I prefer the path of least resistance.
I have found it hurts a lot more now I'm older, skateboarding. Are
you skateboarding much?
No, not really. Last time I got on one, I was a bit like Bambi. It was shocking how much your body doesn't quite remember it. It took a good few hours to try and get comfortable on a skateboard again, but my God, it was painful 2 hours.
Oh man,
it's not the easiest sport in the world, is it?
No, but not dwelling on skateboarding too much. How did you find snowboarding from skateboarding then?
Oh, it was a revelation. It was I've been a skater in Manchester since I was like 11 to 14, 15, 16, that sort of age. So I was getting quite good on the skateboard, and the shop that I worked in called Split Sports in Manchester got in some snowboards. So we all got invited to go and try some at Rosendale Dry Ski Slope. So we hopped along there, tried it, thought this is ace. This is like skateboarding, but it doesn't hurt half as much. And the thing's attached to your feet, so it's easier to do airs and jumps and things like that. So that was it. Me and Chris Moran hooked.
What were those early days at Rosendale like? Like, who was there? Much of a scene? Was there much of a crew up there?
Not to start with, it was me and Chris, my friend Jamie Johnson, and Paul Allen. I think it was like the four of us started it up. We had to petition the councils to let us use the slope in the first place.
Really?
It wasn't. So it wasn't straightforward, but once we got approvals, then we were there as much as we possibly could. Thankfully, Chris was old enough to drive, so he ferried us around all over the place.
Legend.
Which I don't think I've ever thanked him for. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, fuck him. So kind of at Rosendale. I mean, Rosendale ended up having like one of the heaviest sort of freestyle scenes in the country. Yeah. And what was the sort of vibe like around that? Like, what was the driving force? It was obviously you, Chris Moran, sort of Danny came on, the Brasses.
Yeah, there was all the people you mentioned and lots of others. Multiple British champions came out of Ski Rosendale.
Yeah,
it was a good scene, good crowd, good atmosphere. We had some decent jumps that we got made for us.
Right.
A bit of investment was in there. Ellis Brigham made us our first batch of jumps.
Oh, did they?
They did, yeah. Back in the day, because they had a shop there, didn't they, at Ski Rosendale?
I don't know, did they?
They did, yeah. So it worked. It worked really well, It was just a case of we'd have to drag the ramps on, drag them off, as you do, as you well know from dry slope days.
Yeah,
same everywhere, wasn't it? But if you could build it, they'd let you put it on there. So that was it. It was great.
And one of the early memories I've got of you is you and Chris, or a picture of you and Chris like hitting jumps at the same time. And that immediately kind of stood out amongst, obviously, when there's just shots of single riders. Two riders hitting a jump at the same time, immediately is a difference. Do you know what I mean? And so, like you and Chris sort of caught people's eye quite quickly. Yeah,
we were like a dynamic duo, weren't we?
Yeah, was that like a planned decision, or was that just like a twist, just a thing that just happened?
We were just good mates, that was all, We grew up together, liked the same things, travelled the same circles, and we had a good laugh.
Yeah.
It was early years of snowboarding. We were inseparable. We went everywhere together.
Who were you in the car? Who went to Scotland and hid someone in the boot because they didn't have their passport? Do you know that story?
I do know that story, yeah.
Go on.
Well, I know some of it. I was not in the car myself. But I believe somebody, can't remember who, ended up having to get in the roof box on the car, not the boot, because he hadn't brought his passport to Scotland, which someone had told him, as well as setting his watch forward 10 minutes. And it was a young person, that's all I can remember. But yeah, it was an hour into Scotland before they let him out of the roof box.
Jesus. That's so funny. But I mean, did you travel around much from Rosendale? I mean, there was a bit of a dry slope sort of scene and a tour, wasn't there? At kind of
It was
time?
a massive dry slope scene, you know, culminating in Sheffield, of course, which was always a bit of history making, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, mega parties, very, very good.
Yeah, but kind of I mean, what I noticed that when you were riding, like there was quite a big scene, but obviously everyone would stop and look whenever you were strapped in. Did you feel? I mean, you were for a while. You were sort of the outs because Chris kind of drifted away from dry slope, didn't he? Sort of quite early on.
Yeah, I suppose
you carried
so.
on for a bit, and you know you could throw a night. You know, you famously like did the first 900 on dry slope, which, if you look at that sequence now, is still sick. It's not small.
No, it's not. But yeah, you know, the dry slope scene I owe a hell of a lot to. You know, I won countless British dry slope titles. I never felt the pressure when I was there for that.
Really?
No, not at all. I was just enjoying myself. That was all. Trying to go as big as I could, try and learn as many tricks as I could, and just be really consistent. I think that was the deal with myself.
Yeah,
there wasn't too much inconsistency. If I'd learned a trick, I'd learned it, and that was it. I could execute it 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Which obviously made things a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're confident that you can do it, then you've got more chance of doing it.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, in terms of, there weren't too many people that were close to you, just in terms of like, you know, you had tricks, you had style, and you could go fucking massive. There, you know, like there were individuals who might be able to do one of those things or another of those things, but I don't really remember any riders that had like all three in their sort of arsenal.
I know of a few.
Go on.
So you had Moran, obviously.
Yep.
You also had Stuart Brass.
I mean, he could go big, but yeah, fair enough. All right, I'm not going to cast any shade on Stu.
But
Bomber.
Specifically on dry slope, I remember when Ryan Davies came along.
Yeah.
He had everything.
Right.
I could see his progression there. He was excellent. Very, very, very good. Again, extremely consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Kenty had all of those things.
Yeah, but he didn't stick around on dry slope for too long, did he? He drifted on to seasons, didn't he?
He certainly did. Yeah,
he really did.
But yeah, excellent.
I mean, he's actually a similar, you know, like a similar build to you. He's quite sort of springy and wiry. Do you know what I mean? And can go massive.
He can certainly go massive.
Yeah. Good old Kenty.
But you know, the dry slope scene was excellent. Just we were looking forward to it every summer. You know, to go and travel around the circuits, do the competitions, meet all the mates, have a good time, have a laugh. And I think at the time the industry was so tight that you knew everybody, absolutely everybody involved with everything to do with it. So it was like one massive family. It was really interesting, good times. And I think being young at that time as well, it was such a good bunch of people to learn off and, you know, actually grow up with, and to, make you a more rounded person at the end of the day. I think it was great times.
What when did you sort of realise that you were sort of getting not just good, but sort of in the top, you know, in one of the top riders on dry slope, and what that might be able to do for you?
I think it was probably the very first comp. I think very first comp was
which one? What was that? Where was that?
That was Acker's Trust, I think it was.
Okay.
In Birmingham in 19. 90, maybe 91. Wow. I don't know, so, a long time ago. But I remember, I think I finished third in that first comp, and me and Moran turned around to each other, and I think we just went, "We can do this." And
do you remember who won?
I think it might have been Mark Webster, maybe.
Right.
Or Simon Smith.
Yeah.
Or Johnny Green. Johnny Green? Yeah, Johnny Green was
John Green. Handy. He's the guy that made a little thing to spray washing up liquid down his board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, innovative. I think he was also the person that locked the person in the roof.
Oh, box. Really?
Yeah.
And then when did you get hired? Who were your first sponsors? I mean, famously, you rode for Burton for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But who approached
my
you first?
My first official sponsors were Kemper.
Yep.
And 90 Clothing.
90 Clothing.
These were both done by the Phase 7 duo.
Oh, yeah.
So it came out of that camp. So they picked me up first.
Yep.
That first British title that I won on dryslope. I think that final was in Llandudno, I think, maybe.
Right. Okay.
And then I think I was with them for a year, maybe 2. And then Burton approached me and Chris to ride for them. And we rode for Burton for a long, long, long time.
Yeah, I remember seeing you. So I've spoken to Chris about this as well. About I went to one of the ski shows, and it was before they really had anything to do with snowboarding there. But there was some small incline of a slope with like wedge-shaped moguls on it, and they had skiers obviously coming down, and then they had you and Chris sort of making your way down. And I remember you both you'd ollie off the last one and grab your board or whatever. And then at the end, when everybody's clapping, I remember Chris holding his snowboard, and it was the 93 Air 5.1 with the red top sheet. And I just remember, that sticks in my mind, just thinking, snowboarding is fucking cool. I need to do more of that. It looks so much better than skiing. And I just remember, it was you and Chris, you were like the new sort of faces of snowboarding, I guess. Like on Burton, getting to then do stuff. So did Burton sort of push you into more opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Burton, the biggest snowboard company around. Had a lot of excellent people working for them.
Yeah.
They did actually sort out quite a lot of stuff for us to do, which just made everything a lot more interesting. It was really, really good. They really backed us and sorted us out with, too much kit, I should say, really. Probably had more than we needed to have. But it was good that we were being handled so well.
Yeah, I mean, you've helped me out on more than one occasion with some kit. And but I mean, have you got did you sort of keep anything?
Nope. I do not own a snowboard. I've got a pair of boots.
Oh, well done.
And a pair of ride bindings from must be 20 years ago.
Right.
That's about it. Yeah.
But I mean, you always seem to be, or certainly from my point of view, you always like helping people out. If someone's board broke or whatever, you'd be like, "Oh, I'll just borrow this."
Oh yeah, definitely. No skin off my nose, is it?
No, but not everyone's like that. Do you know what I mean?
No, I completely understand that, but yeah, I think it's just the way I was brought up, really.
Yeah. So I've got a list of things that we should talk about. So when we first met, I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if we'd met on dryslope, but me and my mate Toby turned up in Les Arcs to do a season.
Yes.
And do you remember the poor Crystal rep who probably thought, I've got this job for the season, I've got an apartment to myself in Les Arcs, this is going to be sick. And then all of a sudden, I think Crystal was sponsoring you and Chris or something at the time, and I guess you had a pick of where to go and do a season, and they put you in with her, and I think she was generally a bit pissed off about that for most of the season, certainly like whenever we came round.
Well, yeah, I think it was kind of forced upon her at the last minute.
Yeah.
And, thinking back to it, it wasn't the nicest of situations for her to be put in, was it, really, I suppose?
No, in hindsight, I felt really bad for her.
I did see her like about 6 months after the season.
Oh, really?
Down in London, and went out for a drink with her and stuff like that, had a good chat and catch up. And she was cool, Chris, at the end of the day.
Oh, bless her.
She was a lovely girl at the end of the day. She did put up with us.
I know. Well, so I think we bumped into you or something, and then we went back to our tiny little apartment, and then you made a lung, and we got really stoned.
Quite possibly.
That was like, oh look, here's Steve Bailey in our apartment, and none of us can talk because we're absolutely fucked.
It's like to say, I did not inhale.
It's a long time ago. No one can prove anything.
No.
But yeah, that was quite mad, really, because then obviously, you spent most of the season there that year.
Yeah.
And that would have been after you'd been in Chamonix and the whole caravan thing.
Yeah, the year prior, we did me, Matt Lowbridge, Christian Stevenson, Axel Paporte. We all did. Axel and the Belgians were all there in Les Arcs the year before. We went over for a week, me and Matt Lowbridge, to ride with them.
Okay.
And we had such a good time that it just got locked into my mind that I want to go and do a season there, not in Chamonix.
Right.
So that was where I did my first 900 as well.
Interesting. Well, hang on, we're sort of jumping forward a little bit. Let's get back to sort of the transitioning from dry slope to then doing a season. What was the sort of driving force? I know for most, or certainly for a lot of snowboarders, the plan is to go and do a season.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal, isn't it? To get out and spend your winters abroad.
Nothing better. Nothing better. I think I say it every day to customers in the shop. Yeah. People who are like 17, 18, go and do a season. Go and do a season. Your first season, the best thing you can possibly do in your life.
Yeah.
Never as good as that one, though, I don't think. That first season is excellent.
Well, it's like drugs, isn't it?
Oh, so good, so good. Freedom, you're in the mountains, you're meeting a whole new group of friends.
Yeah.
You're in a foreign country. You're doing something you love. That was brilliant. So good.
So was Chamonix your first season then?
Yes. The year after the caravan season.
Yeah.
That's when I did my first season.
Oh, okay. And why did you pick Chamonix? Just because it had a sort of scene of people there already, easy to tap into?
A couple of things. Growing up, we used to watch a lot of the videos. It's our generation, VCRs.
Yeah.
There are a load of videos. Most of them were ski videos, like the Blizzard of Ours.
Oh, yes, of
with
course.
Glenn Blake.
Yep.
Who I've met a few times now. He's cool. And obviously they go to Chamonix quite a bit, and it's covered quite extensively in those videos as one of the best places to go skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah.
So that was one reason. Second reason was we went to do the NEC ski show, where we first met all the Brummie lot. So Turby, Matt Lowbridge, Nicky B, Doug, everybody from down that way, and they were going to do their first season in Chamonix in a caravan.
Yeah.
And at the end of that show, Turby said to me and Chris, "Oh, you should come out." And that was all it took.
Yeah.
We just turned up on his doorstep one day in Chamonix. When you said we could come.
Yeah.
Chris ended up staying for like 2 months. I was there for a week, I think, or 2 weeks or something. But yeah.
But what was it like then? Sort of the experience of had you been on any like trips up till that point? So you'd seen the mountains, you knew
snow
what.
once.
Where was that? Scotland?
Oh no, sorry, twice. I should say. I went to Obergurgl.
Yep.
With my friend Paul and his mum and dad. That was the first snow trip for a week. And then the year after that, me, Jamie, Paul, and Chris all went to Chamonix for a week.
Because like turning up in Chamonix for your first season, if you hadn't seen the mountains before, that would be fairly mind-blowing, I imagine.
Yeah. Although thinking about it, I don't think I ever bothered looking up that much. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think we turned up and it was dark.
Yeah.
And then we had to walk like 5 miles with all our bags in the dark to a caravan in the middle of nowhere. And I don't think, it was strange times.
But I mean, obviously Chamonix, if you watch the Blizzard of Ours, it's all about the big mountains and, it's like the extreme, not to coin a phrase, but the extreme stuff. And obviously you guys coming from a hardcore freestyle background, was like the extreme stuff of interest to you, or was it just like we're in the mountains, like it's all on, or?
No, the extreme stuff was the major driving factor, really.
Right.
I think anybody agree with you really when it comes to snowboarding, whether you're a freestyler or a free rider or even some of the hard booters. There's nothing better than doing turns in fresh snow.
Yeah.
You can get as much air as you want. Doesn't really matter. Doing turns in fresh snow, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, but I just like, because some, certainly now you've got like the kids who, they're like street snowboarders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's all they're interested in. They're not interested in getting up into the peaks and all that sort of stuff.
No, but they're just using terrain that they've got on the doorstep, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Very interesting. Some of the setups that they have and the ways of using, urban terrain to their advantage. It's very impressive. Obviously, I kind of came from that background as well, really, with skateboarding.
Yeah.
And, we used to have rails set up in parks and interesting bits and pieces done. But, at some point, I decided I don't want to pursue that bit of snowboarding.
Okay.
Because it felt better on a skateboard doing it.
Yeah.
I'll say. It didn't feel right that it's done on a snowboard.
Okay.
And it hurts.
Yeah. But I mean... But I guess, back then it felt like being a snowboarder was to do... You did do everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, you weren't a park rider. Well, there weren't any parks, so you definitely weren't a park rider or a rail rider, because there weren't really many rails either.
No.
And certainly not on the mountain. Like, you rode everything.
Yes. And, there wasn't even parks around then.
No, well, Chamonix was famously, like, the last...
You only had the mountain and the piste to ride. That was it.
Yeah. And I've got two things. One is to do with the sort of the big mountain experience, but I want to just circle back to similar to the sequence of the 900 on the dry slope. There's the most iconic dry slope shot, which is yours, of doing like the mute,
stiffy mute.
It's not a stiffy, is it? It's a one leg out. Are they called ice? Are they called ice picks or something like that?
I used to call them stiffy mutes, but God knows.
Well, anyway, there's the shot of you grabbing mute, and obviously it's been taken from a low angle, but it is fucking ginormous.
For a dry slope shot, it's an excellent shot.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Doing that jump and getting the shot, do you know what I mean?
You always do, really. You always remember the shot when it works. Everything. I think the other part of my career, which worked quite well, was working with photographers to get the correct position for them and them being in the right position for me.
Yeah.
I worked very closely with a lot of photographers over the years and always had a good working relationship with all of them.
Yeah.
So much so, we did a lot of work together. And, we managed to get quite a lot of good shots. But that one in particular was obviously the most used shot of me on any platform anywhere in the world.
I mean, I think Matt shared it on his Instagram, and then I think I nabbed it and put it on our one.
Yeah.
And people just like, how is that even possible? Because it is. I mean, did it feel, was that just like an ordinary session and
it was,
and the sort of guy had his camera out, or was that like, right, I want to fucking not smash this out of the park this time?
No, it was, I was being asked about this the other day, and I thought it was a Berry Times photographer, which is my local rag from where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I actually found one of the original shots of it the other day.
Okay.
And it was actually from the Manchester Evening News.
No way.
Which was a local rag from Manchester.
Yeah.
And the guy's name that took it, finally. The guy's name is David Butterworth. And I don't think he even knows.
So, I mean, he wasn't a snowboard photographer. He just turned up.
He was
and
just
you said,
a
sit there and click
Evening
then.
News photographer, yeah.
And you pretty much, directed him just what to do?
I directed him where to be and stuff like that. And then I just did a whole load of tricks right in his face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, that one came out pretty damn good.
No way. That's insane that somebody who took like one of the iconic shots of dryslope, you know, and
he doesn't even know.
And the history of our sport, and hasn't even a clue that.
He doesn't even know.
Man, that is.
So maybe you'll see this. And if you do, David, thank you.
Yeah, we all owe you one. That's for sure. So then going back to the big mountain thing. So there was that season where we were hanging out with you in Les Arcs, and we went and did the Robert Blanc couloir.
Oh, yeah.
Are you okay talking about this, or is it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to trigger you or anything.
No, I'm not going to break down, don't worry.
I mean, I remember that day. That was like, you were like, yeah, let's go to this place. I think I did it yesterday, but I think it had snowed. And you were like, yeah, let's go and do it. And I was like, what's it like? Because I've always been sort of fairly cautious. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a sort of cowboy snowboarder. I'm like, okay, well, what's it like? And you're like, well, it's okay. It's a bit of a it's a bit of a funnel, but you cut right before some big cliffs. We'll be all right. And I remember you like fucking airing into it with the backside air, and it was on, and like the snow was great, and we did the line and everything. Not entirely sure we had transceivers.
No, we didn't.
And good times.
Very.
Brilliant.
Times.
What a great run. Like that still sticks in my mind. But it was about a year later, almost to the day, I think, certainly in the same month, that I was working in the board store at Brentwood, and sort of word got out that you'd been taken down that and got spit out over the cliffs and everything. So can you tell us through what happened?
Yeah, just naivety, a bit too cockiness, not really enough attention spent on the mountain itself.
Right.
And I got taken down the couloir by an avalanche.
Can you tell us about like what the conditions were like? Sort of the sort of morning leading up to it or whatever.
Conditions were good. We'd had quite a bit of fresh snow. Good like foot and a half, even 2 foot in places, in the wind blown stuff. So it was good conditions. We're doing backcountry stuff, shall we say. We actually went down that run 10 minutes prior.
When you say we, who are you with?
Sorry, me, Chris Moran, Neil McNabb and Stu Brass.
Right.
No, Stenty.
Okay.
So, you got Neil and Stenty there, the backcountry gurus of the UK scene.
Yeah.
None of us had transceivers. And we had such a good run that first run that we just went straight back round on the lift to do it again.
Yeah.
Conditions had changed in those 10 minutes. What seemed like a solid pack that 4 of us had ridden down 10 minutes prior.
Yeah.
As soon as I landed off the couloir at the top, you look back to where your landing hole is to see how far you'd gone.
Yeah.
Well, the landing hole was just moving down the hill as a big crack line appeared under the cornice.
Yeah.
And that whole funnel went.
Yeah.
But I got out of that. It didn't get
really?
me. Yeah. Everyone else was still on top of the couloir.
Yeah.
So I tried to drop into a second couloir to the right and cut out to the right into the tree line. But as soon as I turned to go into the tree line, what was under me just slabbed and just dragged me back into it. And then I was just at its mercy for about a mile.
What was going through your mind?
Quite a few things. Oh no, to start with. And then I was kind of sat on it a bit like a slide to start with before it engulfed me. So it was taking me down the couloir on my backside. I could see exactly what was going on. It tossed me off a cliff. And then when I hit the floor off that cliff, that was when it started ragdolling me and churning me, and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
At that point, I opened my mouth to scream, as you do, and that just got full of snow, so you're choking.
Fucking hell.
As you're being ragdolled. And it's a weird sort of sensation. When you fall doing a big jump and you get ragdolled, you do 1, maybe 2 ragdolls. So you don't really get to hear what it sounds like. But when you're being churned over and over and over and over and over and over again, it's really loud.
Right.
Yeah. It's like really, really, really loud. And the only time you know where you are is when it throws you off a cliff, because it just goes silent.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for the impact of, you don't know where this cliff is. You don't know how big it is, how far it is. You just know it's silent.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a big impact on landing because you don't know what's up, what's down. So I think I had 2 of those where really heavy impacts on landings. Still conscious.
Yeah.
I was just like, I gave up at that point and just sort of said, well, it's just going to do with me what it'll do. I can't fight this.
Yeah.
And then it tossed me off another cliff. And when I landed off that, I thought I'd just try and dig in my toe edge. Didn't even know if my toe edge was on the floor or where it was. And I just stopped like within 2 seconds like that. And I was like, oh, hang on. Couldn't see anything. Everything was white. Stuff was coming down, hitting me. I put my hands in front of my face just to sort of, I was thinking like a big rock would come down or something. Just, I don't know what I'd do with my arms, but I put them like that. But it was just a load of snow in the air for about 5 minutes. It was a blue sky day, but you couldn't see any of that. Yeah. It was just like a whiteout, like flat light day where you just can't see anything.
Yeah.
And eventually, after 5 minutes, it settled, and it had taken me about a mile in about 40 or 50 seconds off 3 cliffs and over a road.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that was lucky. I'm not buried. Amazing. I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
So I was facing up the hill, obviously, because I stopped on my toe edge. And I decided, well, I'll get unclipped and walk back up to the road. So I jumped round on my snowboard and very, very painfully. I looked down and my left foot was pointing inwards, still clipped into the binding. The whole binding had been rotated 90 degrees. So I was like, it's not good. It's not good at all. Didn't really hurt too bad because of the adrenaline rush, but I knew it was banjoed. And then I think Neil came down to me.
Yeah.
Stenty got stuck on top of a cliff. And Who was it who went along the road? The other person went to the lifty to go and radio it through and get a helicopter.
Yeah.
It was got a helicopter ride to the hospital. The only helicopter I've ever been in. Gutted.
That sucks.
I know.
And so what was then the sort of recovery and, you know, like how was your head after that? I mean, that is a fucking trauma.
You'd think, really, but obviously there was a little bit of trying to get back on the horse and get your head into gear.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really was traumatized by it in any kind of way. In fact, I think the reverse was kind of opposite, because it was the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had in my life. You know,
oh my God.
It was an experience, a bad experience, but good in other ways. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever reach those sorts of adrenaline heights ever again. No. And it proved to me that I was being too unsafe, too blasé, and I should have respected the mountain more. So good came of it, you know.
Did you stick out that season out there with your injuries and?
Oh yeah, of course I did.
Because you were living in Madame Morel's at that point, weren't you?
Madame Morel's, yes. Well, yeah, I didn't see any point in going home. You know, not really a lot to do at home. Whereas it's nice in Bourg Saint-Maurice, isn't it?
It is.
So yeah, I just chilled. Well, I was at the hospital for quite a bit. And then I got kicked out of the hospital, which was a bit sad.
Yeah.
But my own fault. I shouldn't have gone home and started playing video games and tried to get back into the hospital at like midnight. They said, if you're going to do that, you're not staying here, and sent me packing. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to think. So that was that season. And then the following season, I rocked up to Bourg Saint-Maurice and sort of stayed in one of Madame Morel's apartments. But you weren't there, so...
No, season after that I came, I think. So
were you back riding by then?
Yes.
Did you go Innsbruck or somewhere like that?
Yeah. I didn't... basically, I think it took me 10 months to learn to walk again.
Yeah.
So I was snowboarding again for the next season, but my ankle was incredibly weak. Yeah. You know, if I did any kind of jump, it'd just collapse and I'd be a heap on the floor.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really do much. So I didn't want to go to France, Les Arcs, or Chamonix with all my mates, because I'd just get too pressured to do stuff too soon.
Yeah.
So instead I went to Austria on my own and lived in the Innsbruck Valley.
Okay.
Made some new mates there, like German bloke Maggie.
German Maggie, the cop.
Yeah. That's where I met him that season. Chilled out with Mickey McDonald quite a bit. Worked for him in the summer. I stayed for a whole year.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because West Beach had their sort of
European
set
offices
up there, didn't they?
Mm.
I didn't know you'd worked for Mickey.
I did. But it was really good, because that was a really good snow year as well, wasn't it?
I don't recall.
Well, that was the year where the big avalanche came through Chamonix.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, and the Galtour avalanche as well.
Yeah, of course.
So it was the best snow in Europe for 30 years.
Right.
It was incredible. So when I said I couldn't jump, I could if there was fresh snow.
Yeah.
So I spent like a week riding fresh snow in Austria, and it'd be snowing the whole time in France.
Yeah.
And then Maggie would drive from Austria to France. By the time we get to France, it stopped snowing.
Yeah.
So it was fresh snow to ride. But then it starts snowing in Austria. So we'd ride the fresh snow in France, and then 5 days later drive back to Austria. Nice. Pretty much spent the entire season just riding the fresh snow. It was immense. Really, really, really good.
Man, good times.
Yeah, very good times. And
what made you choose like Innsbruck and Austria? I mean, obviously you said that like there wasn't a scene there that you'd then feel pressured by, but when you can put a pin in a map and go anywhere, like how come you sort of chose there?
It was more I'd spent quite a bit of time there when I was riding for Burton.
Right.
So
I guess
I knew the area pretty well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you get a nice city vibe, don't you? Of Innsbruck. It's cool. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Were Burton supportive through that whole time when you were injured?
Very much so, yeah.
Because I mean, you had that double page. You were getting double page adverts and stuff like that, weren't you? Like they were sort of pretty invested in their riders at the time. It felt. Yeah,
they were, and they were really, really good with me. I just came to the decision that whilst I can't ride, whilst I'm injured, I can't do them any promotion. So I actually left my sponsors.
Right.
And didn't actually ride for anybody over that period I was injured. So I just had pretty much most of the snowboard companies at the time sending me kit to test to have a go of.
Yeah.
So I'd not really ridden much else, to tell you the truth. Apart from the board tests and stuff like that. So, I had a Palmer Honeycomb. Yeah. I had a Solomon when they first started coming about. I had a few ride boards, duotone.
Oh, you rode some duotones.
I tried some Vans boots out. I tried 32s boots out. I tried Burton boots out. Tried loads of kit, loads of different bindings, Drake bindings, flow bindings.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, flow bindings, believers, but I'm not one. Sorry.
There's an advert down here on one of the buses, and it's for bus drivers, but it's like picking out kind of what people do as well as being a bus driver. And there's a girl holding a snowboard and it's got flow bindings on it. And every time I see it, I just go, oh, that could have just been some normal bindings.
Yes.
Otherwise, that's what people are going to expect when they go. Anyway, let's not cast any more shade on flow bindings. I'm sure they're amazing. And if you like them, brilliant. So, yeah, the sort of avalanche season. And then you did a season in Innsbruck. And then we got a flat together in Borg.
We certainly did.
That had no furniture. I remember the inflatable sofa that I think I bought out.
Valuable.
So I got a couple of memories from that season because I had my turntables with me and I seemed to be the first one up most mornings and I would listen to Air's Moon Safari. It just seemed to set things off in the right mood every day. I was talking with Tim and Jenny on their podcast about that. But the other thing was that you used to move the furniture around all the time.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
No.
No.
No. I think that was just that one time sort of thing,
I mean, obviously you weren't feeling quite settled there and you were obviously, well, I'm assuming with some COD psychology that you were trying to settle down or, find some relaxation or something there and you would sort of moving furniture around to try and find the best scenario.
Best location for it all, yeah. But I was young.
But I mean that was a brilliant season, that one.
Yeah, remember the park was excellent in Lazare that year. So it flowed so well.
So it had that one, they had a little jump and then you go up to the left and then it wasn't really a hip, it was more of a straight jump. You'd land off that and then go fast as you can.
Yeah.
And then there was one and then down onto like the Hollywood like kicker, or you could turn right and go and do the Hollywood hip. And then there was the restaurant and then you'd go around the back of that onto the chair, lap that. And there was everyone. Who was there? There was
Munson,
Kenty,
Crabtree, Paul Moore, you, Toby. Your brother was there, wasn't he?
Dave was there living with Munson and Kenty. There was Orlando.
McNabb was he with Ruth that year?
I don't think so.
That must have been a year after or something.
Danny was there. He was living in Borg by that time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just a big crew, and then obviously all like Axel and some of the Belgian guys were in town as well. Like, yeah, that was a pretty sick season.
Yeah, it became quite a destination, didn't it, Les Arcs?
Yeah.
I think that was Moran's article in White Lines, which caused that influx of people, I think.
Well, I mean, I guess it started with Odd Man Out.
Yeah.
And then obviously you guys were all there for a bit, and you were all in White Lines. So White Lines, half the shots were from Les Arcs in White Lines. So it was just, why wouldn't you go there? You know, like everything you saw looked fucking brilliant. Like, let's have some of that.
And it was good, wasn't it? That park that they had that year that we were there.
Yeah.
If you landed off the first jump, you had the perfect amount of speed for the next one.
Yeah.
And the next one.
Yeah.
And the next one. And that's what I deem a very good park.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do check turns. You don't have to stop and start and stop and start. You just go.
Yeah.
And the lines through there were excellent. Such good fun. I think we all progressed a hell of a lot in that park.
Yeah, I remember the first time I tried a 180 over the bottom one and just thinking, I've got quite a lot of time here. And then you'd land, because it was such a steep run out, you'd come out of it backwards like about 50 mile an hour.
Yeah, it was a steep run out on that, wasn't it?
But brilliant. I mean, that was probably like my best sort of, well, getting towards like my best snowboarding. Do you know what I mean? Where it was, because everyone was amped and everyone had like drop in like a train as well. It's like the ski show. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so like everyone was just like on it and on it and on it, and someone do something good and it's like, right, you can't fall over because I know there are people coming behind, so you had to be really on it.
Yeah, and we all were.
Well, some more than others. I was definitely at the back of the queue, but I mean, yeah, it was great. It was great to be part of that. Felt like a real part of a real sort of special crew. Do you know what I mean? It was exciting.
Excellent times, weren't they? Really, really good.
Yeah, then what happened after that? I think I went and lived with Munson and Kenty, and you... What did you do after that? Did you go to Whistler?
No, I've never done a season in Whistler.
But you've
I might
been
have
to
gone
Whistler,
on a
haven't
trip
you?
to Whistler.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen some pictures of you.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely pictures of me in Whistler. But, yeah, that was just a trip. What did I do after that? I think then the next season I went back to Chamonix, I think, after that.
Okay.
And then I spent, like, 2 years, summer and winter in Chamonix, I think.
Oh, really? Summer and winter?
Yeah.
What were you doing in the summers?
Travelling around the glaciers a little bit, playing crazy golf. You know, going to the swimming pool.
Just
Chilling.
Summer things.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I remember, and it must have been after that season we lived together. You came and stayed at my mum and dad's house.
Oh, I did, yeah.
And we went to Bromley Dryslope because we were still part of that scene. And you borrowed Dave's board, and he's regular, and you're goofy, and you were in your trainers. And there is video footage of this somewhere as well. And you were like just sending it, like bigger than anyone else. And there was Tom Kingsnorth was there, and he was only about like 11 or 12 at the time, like being like, fucking hell, it's Steve Bailey, do you know? And it was and we were like, yeah, well, of course it's Steve Bailey, you know. And just you going bigger than everyone else in your trainers on a board set up backwards for you.
Well,
and it was like, that's not normal.
Not bad. I've done it quite a bit. Yeah, it used to be a regular thing at Rosendale where you just do a few runs in your trainers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do a few jumps in your trainers. Yeah. Maybe not so much on a board set up the wrong way round, but yeah.
I remember that board of Dave's, actually. It was a luxury, and it had a pink base. There we go. These things stick in your mind, don't they?
They do, yeah.
But yeah, it's funny, really, because we've actually spent loads and loads of time together, and then we just didn't see each other for however many years.
10, 15 years. Yeah.
I guess we just hung out at the ski shows, wouldn't we?
Yes. But although, I think last ski show was the first one that I've done in like 15 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would have been the first one I've been to in 15 years as well, I imagine.
So, yeah, we'll keep meeting up at the ski show.
Let's keep doing that. Well, let's try and find some other fun reasons to meet up.
Exactly.
So what happened there? Like you spent a couple of seasons in Chamonix.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, apart from... Didn't see much of you in sort of print or anything, except for... I remember seeing you do... You did a fucking really cool backside 7 in one of Tim and Gen's movies. Was that on a British Champs jump or something?
It might be. That was...
Slightly upside down.
That would have been my retirement day.
Okay, tell me about that.
I think. So this would have been, I don't know, 2000, 2001, something like that. British Champs.
Yeah.
And I think this was the first contest that I've entered since the Avalanche.
Right.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had no practice, never been on the jump before.
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time had hurt her back, so I was getting her down the mountain. And that was the half pipe day. No, on the big air jump, yeah. Didn't really have any practice on it. Just rocked straight up. Did that backside 7.
Yeah.
And worked really well. And I won the contest, won the British Championships for the final time. I remember Danny being there with amazing pop, amazing style. And I was thinking, yeah, Danny's going to take this.
Yeah.
And good on him. What I didn't know was that he didn't cleanly land any of them. He had a hand drag or a butt check or something like that. So me being consistent again,
yeah,
I won the British title again. And for me, that was, one of the most satisfying British titles that I've won out of them all. Because I don't know if I deserved it or not, or whether the judges were just, giving me a bit of kudos for actually doing a good trick.
No, it's on film, isn't it? It's definitely, I've definitely seen it. It's in one of the lockdown movies, or it's in the Invasion, or the Eldridge Brothers ones before that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to find it and clip it up and get it on the gram.
There you go.
So yeah, so on that day, did you make a conscious decision like, right, that's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that feel after being, sort of, a proper good life in snowboarding?
Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think I'd achieved what I could.
Yeah.
Within the British snowboarding scene. Also, I was getting old at that point. I was at least, 27, 28.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it, what you think at the time?
I know. And, you can't do it forever, can you? And look at what they're doing now. Could you imagine being 50 and trying that? There's no chance.
Mate, I put my back out putting my boots on at the board test last year.
I can believe it.
And they're boas, so it's not as if I was having to try very hard either. But no, yeah, it's a different, it's a different world now, isn't it?
It
really is.
What do you think of the youth of today in their snowboarding?
I had a gondola ride with Mikey, Mikey, Mia's coach, out in Lax.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting conversation because he was just saying, like when they sort of design their runs or they're thinking about what runs she's going to do, part of their thinking is also they want to make snowboarding look good. Like it's not all for the judges, it's for snowboarding.
Yeah.
And that really, Yeah, that was really like, I'm really glad someone's thinking like that. It's not just trying to please the judges situation. It's doing it for snowboarding. And I think, you know, like a lot of the contest kids, and these 2360s that guy threw down recently. I mean, it's insane.
It is insane, isn't it?
I worry that the only time people see snowboarding now is contests and competitions. They don't see sort of the lifestyle of snowboarding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like razzing along, and like, I'm just thinking of you, following you like in Les Arcs and just going down a cat track and then hard left, you're on your toes, fucking 720. Into some soft snow, boom, down onto another piece and just riding around. Do you know what I mean? Like that's snowboarding. Do you know what I mean? Getting there and getting a season pass, that's snowboarding. Hanging out with your mates, that's snowboarding. Do you know what I mean? It's not all about competition.
Exactly, yeah. Totally.
You know, and everything you've achieved and like, you know, how good you are on a snowboard. I mean, you're an absolute cat on a snowboard. And that's what snowboarding is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's well said, Chris. You know, it's not just the snowboarding, is it? It's everything. I think our generation had a great time with it.
I think so, yeah.
I think these new youth generation, they have to be proper sportsmen and women. You know, they train really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
You know, they're nutritional diets and, you know, major regimes. We just had fun, didn't we, at the end of the day?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. But I mean, you had that. Did you ever feel like, I mean, you obviously did well in sort of national comps. Did you ever do any international comps? And did you ever feel like that was something you should be doing as a pro snowboarder to kind of earn your keep?
I did a few international comps. Did all right in some, terrible in others. But it was never really a goal of mine to be pitting myself against the best in the world, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that. I was just enjoying snowboarding.
Well, it always felt like you sort of furrowed your own path, really. You only sort of did the things... You did the things that felt right to you, not to anyone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you didn't always put yourself in the centre of attention. You'd be like, no, I'm just going to go here and ride this place and learn this place really well and be able to rip around it like no one else.
Like Steve Bailey.
So when you sort of not hung up your boots, I mean, I guess that's probably around the time that you moved to where you are in North Wales.
A few years later, I moved to North Wales, but I lived in Chester for a couple of years. That's where my missus at the time was from. So
yeah, and you, I mean, have you worked all the time in Brigham's in Chester? No, I worked for Helly Hansen for 5 years. Oh yeah, doing what?
Doing their tech training, so going around the stores, training staff up on technicalities of their outfits and clothing that they're selling.
Okay, I didn't know you did
Interesting times. I got a little bit fat for me.
Bet some fucking great
over that time. Hey?
I bet you got some good thermals though.
I did, yes. Very much did.
Shout out to Helly Hansen Thermals. If anybody at Helly Hansen wants to send me some, you'd be more than welcome.
Well, they do make the best thermals, so
they do. But so were you instrumental at all? Because Helly Hansen tried to they got into snowboarding for a bit, didn't they? They sort of
they certainly did,
Nelson, and were you part of that sort of move?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they were one of my sponsors that I took on after the avalanche. So when I was sponsored again, I chose Helly Hansen Clothing.
Right.
And then we built a team, which was me, Melanie, and Nelson
Pratt, yeah.
And then I started working for Helly rather than riding, which would have been pretty much when I retired.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worked for them for 5 years and then started working with Brigham's again.
Okay, and
I'm still there.
How was that? Going back to Brigham's.
It's a great company, still family run. It's nice to go into work every day. I enjoy it, and not many people can say that about their job. Really, at the end of the day,
yeah,
I feel quite privileged that that I can work in a comfortable environment with people that I like, and doing a job that I enjoy, and hopefully, touch wood, that continues. But yeah, I'm still at Ellis Brigham in Chester. Come and see us. Got a TSA department.
Does anybody that come in sort of understand that they're talking to one of the goats of British snowboarding?
Sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, there's the odd handshake now and again and picture selfie taken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even now.
Fucking sick.
I know. So it's a bit embarrassing, to tell you the truth.
Come on, man, you got to own that.
I know, but still, it's...
They should get that dry slope picture blown up on a wall in there. So I know wall in retail is, gold dust, but they should have that picture up, I think.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
We'll have a word with Jez and Shannon, see if we can make that happen.
Well, they did it for the gallery show in London earlier this year.
Yeah, that was great.
But they didn't know who the photographer was.
No.
Now they do.
But just thinking about that, you seem to sort of be not around the scene, sort of tucked away up there in Chester, but it feels like you're sort of making a bit of a sort of tentative steps back in, like coming down to that show in London. You're talking about coming out to the board test.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've been sort of tucked away and coming back, or
No.
you just doing you?
I'm just doing me. I've been bringing up my daughter for the last 20 years, and now she looks after me pretty much.
Shout out Poppy for the tech support.
Yeah, Poppy Bailey, little wonder. And I don't know. I got invited to those things earlier this year. That's why I went.
So it's just that you hadn't been invited before.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Someone invites me, I'll go. That's.
Is that it? That's the threshold.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Do you want to come down to Brighton?
Yeah.
Come down
Tomorrow.
and stay on Moran's boat.
He's got a boat.
He's got a boat.
I don't think I trust that.
I think. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's fine. We took our kids onto it once, and Chris was like, "Yeah, come, and I was like, "No, we're not leaving the harbour." Do you know what I mean? I'm not entirely comfortable with the kids on the boat.
A sailboat or a motorboat?
It's a sailboat. I mean, he doesn't take it out. It's sat in Brighton Marina.
Wow.
And he stays there when he comes back to see Harry.
I can't imagine him sailing away.
Captain Moran.
Yeah.
He's a man.
Cap,
I'm sure he's got a captain's cap somewhere. He's a man of many different avenues.
Very much so.
What haven't we covered? I mean, you must have so much to talk about. I remember you being on board Stupid, doing a frontside 7.
Yeah.
And hanging out with the but you were in the Jamiroquai video.
Yes, I was in that as well.
Tell me about that. What do you remember about that?
I remember Moran and me drove out in his Morris Minor Traveller to Austria to shoot it. Took us 3 days to get there. We got lost getting out of London and ended up back in London. Took us like half a day. We ended up still at the same place that we started at and spent another night in London because we just couldn't get out of it. Yeah. It was interesting. We never actually got to meet Jim Oriquai. We only got to meet his manager. It was a lovely lady. But they'd made up. Nope.
Are we all good?
Yeah, battery's just going. That's all. I've got 10% left.
All right.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, they had some boards made up from Nidecker.
Yeah.
With trick sticks with the Jim Oriquai logo on the base.
Yeah.
Now they'll be collector's items. I think there was two made. So
No,
you've got one of them.
I spoke to Christian. Apparently there were 5 made.
Oh,
and
5.
I think they know where 3 of them are or something like that.
But yeah, they'll be a rarity.
Yeah, 100% they will be.
And yeah, it was an interesting trip. It really was. I think we went to St. Anton. It was bloody cold. Really, really, really cold.
I mean, that's such a... I mean, it wasn't necessarily their best song, but certainly for snowboarding in the mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, there hadn't been a lot of snowboarding in the mainstream, and then to have like British riders in that was quite a coup, I think, for sort of British snowboarding, really.
It was, yeah.
I mean, did you feel that at the time, or
no? No, we were just trying to be here, there, and everywhere, trying to do every job we could. That was all. It was to me and Chris, it was just let's go riding for 5 days in Austria. You know,
amazing.
I suppose it wasn't for us to put the video together and do all the really hard work, was it? You know,
putting videos together is not hard work.
And then your bored stupid thing with we had Phil Young and Normski presenting, or Norman, as he's actually called. And that was interesting times as well. I think I spent 2 months in Lacing.
Oh yeah.
In the worst snow conditions of any winter that I've ever been in. There was hardly any snow that year.
Yeah.
And I think we were just teaching band members how to snowboard.
Yeah, you took the Prodigy out, didn't you?
Yeah, although majority of them had snowboarded before the Prodigy. Right. 2 were quite proficient. The other 2 not so much. But yeah, well, a good bunch of lads. Really, really nice chaps.
Yeah.
From Romford Skate Park, sort of BMXers they were. And yeah, quality bunch of people. Met loads of bands.
Yeah.
And everybody was sound. Like, yeah, there's not one person that I met that didn't like or didn't get on with. They're all excellent people. So it was an interesting time, really was.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Like I was chatting to Phil, put his episode out a couple of weeks ago, and it was just, you know, like a snowboarding TV show about snowboarding, focusing on British snowboarding and, you know, kind of urban music culture that went out on a Sunday morning when sort of the culture at the time was you'd be out Saturday night, you'd be lying in bed, you know, or hungover or whatever with your mates Sunday morning, and then having that broadcast to you. I mean, it's not really surprising that snowboarding sort of really blew up, is it? Because
no.
Who would see that and think, I don't want a piece of that?
Exactly. And yeah, it was, I suppose it was quite monumental for snowboarding in the UK, especially having a TV show dedicated to. It was cool time.
All right. Well, I'm worried that your iPad's going to run out of power.
Fair enough.
So we should get to the last couple of questions that I have. I'm just really aware that there's probably so much we could talk about.
I know.
We could always do a part 2 next season if we decide to. So yeah, one of the questions is, just tell me about like what snowboarding means to you.
To me, it was probably the best thing that I've ever done in my life. At the end of the day, it gave me everything. Gave me fun, enjoyment, friends, a life. It's still paying me back now, you know. Still love it when I get involved in the industry in any kind of way, whether it's selling a snowboard to somebody or doing this with you or going down to a gallery or going to the ski show. I love going to the ski show, you know. 20 years. And it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite as good as the old times, but at least it wasn't 10 days long.
No. The old ski show time warp where you don't really know what's gone on in the outside world for 10 days.
No. But, you know, everyone I've ever met to do with snowboarding has been a wicked person and someone that I class as a friend. So, it's been brilliant. Really, really, really good. I want to do quite a lot more.
Amen to that.
I'm going to get myself a snowboard.
Well, you've got a passport now.
And some bindings. Got my passport. I've got my boots. Got goggles. Going to the board test. And I retire in 17 years, so I might do another season.
And then, so just to finish off then, if someone, well, possibly like, you know, a bit like yourself maybe, or like I was, you know, sort of let the dust settle on snowboarding a little bit. For whatever reason, kids, family, money, just life gets in the way, work, all the things. Why should someone get back to snowboarding if they haven't been for a while, in your opinion?
Well, I don't think you can... If you know how to snowboard, I think whenever you actually do it, just reaffirms how good it actually is. And yeah, just brings so much enjoyment to my life when I do it. I love it. Absolutely love it. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing on the snowboard. I can be going to Tamworth, not doing any jumps. Love it. I can, yeah, I could probably be bouncing around on a trampoline and love it, you know, or just clipping in on a piece of carpet and still love it. It's brilliant. Such a good sport. Just hope I can always do it and I don't get too old to not be able to.
No. We should probably knock the old sports sticks on the head.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So there you go. The GOAT of British snowboarding, Steve Bailey. I hope you enjoyed that. I was just out at the Three Valleys at Chris Moran's place, and he's got an archive of White Lines magazines, and looking through that and seeing 720s and 900s on dry slope that still really defy any kind of logic. Still so big and so stylish. And not many people can claim to be throwing 900s on dry slope. And I'm not talking about Snowflex here. I'm talking about Dendex. There's not many people that can claim to do that. And Steve is one of those people and was doing it 25 years ago. So big up you, Steve. Thank you for all that you've done for British snowboarding. And thank you for being such a legend. And I so look forward to having some laps with you out in Kianatown in a couple of weeks' time. All right, so that is the end of Season 2. Season 3 is going to be locked in, starting again in the autumn. Not entirely sure when, but if you keep an eye on our Instagram, then you'll know when it's coming back. Over the summer, I'm going to be dropping... I've been out recording kind of chairlift conversations on chairlifts. So back in Lax, there wasn't loads of people to chat to. And as you well know, I had massive kind of technology failures. And I thought maybe I would cobble together an episode of conversations from chairlifts. And I tested out my phone and it kind of recorded all right. And I recorded a whole bunch, but I haven't actually needed to use any of that content yet. And they're a really fun way of kind of a really relaxed conversation ranging all over the shop with your mates on a chairlift. You only have a certain amount of time to sort of cover whatever you cover. Obviously, you get the sounds of the chairlift and everything. So I think they're quite evocative. And I've got a bunch recorded already that I did out in Lax and out in the Three Valleys, and I'm going to do some more when I'm out in Kianatown, try and get some real legends on. So at the end of the episode, you're going to hear one that I recorded with Tom Kingsnorth, which is really, really funny, and I hope you stick around and listen to that. So I'm going to be dropping them sporadically over the summer. It depends how many I've got to release. That's just a little way of kind of keeping the froth levels at a reasonable level in time for autumn to come, just so you can't start wishing the summers away. Summer's fun, hasn't got any snowboarding in it, but there's other things. And if you keep an eye on the Instagram, I'll let you know about anything going on, any visits to the snowdomes, or if there's any events on, it will all be posted on there. So yeah, go and check it out at Thank You Snowboarding Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to DM me on there as well, you'd be more than welcome about anything. you want to talk about, really, to do with snowboarding. If I am going to be looking, I'm sort of looking for more local hero stories. So people that are out in resorts or in shops in the UK, or, working behind the scenes in the industry that I don't know about, but who have kind of devoted their life to snowboarding, or who are helping other people go snowboarding. If you know of people who you think have got an interesting story that is part of the bigger scene of British snowboarding culture, then I'd love to know about that. So if you know somebody, you can get in touch with me at thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com or on the DMs on Instagram. That'd be really useful, because obviously I don't know everybody's stories, and I don't know all these little nooks and crannies where people hang out in. But I'm definitely want to cover some of those the unsung heroes of the British scene. So any suggestions, more than welcome, and we'll get them on the podcast. And then, speaking of Instagram, the thing I guess many of you have been waiting for is going to give away the Lax Open 10-year anniversary Burton Custom 158 that I won at Lax. So basically the story is, if you don't know, there was some sort of media raffle. I didn't know that I was being entered into it, and when I got home I had an email from Astrid, and we got to send a big shout out to Astrid over in Lax for having me along in the first place, telling me that I'd won this board. Now, I feel like I'm a very fortunate person getting to go to Lax on a media pass and everything in the first place, and although I could ride this 158, I feel it's a little bit small for what I want. I'm trying to go up to like 161, 162, something like that. And I'm certainly not ungrateful for winning this board. It's a beautiful thing. It's number 23, which if you Google the number 23, there's all sorts of things about it as well, which I think is pretty cool. Especially if you like the gorillas, you'll see the number 23 pop up quite a lot in the artwork that Jamie Hewlett does. And it's number 23 of 50. There's only 50 of these made. There's only 50 in the world. They got a limited edition black top sheet, which is numbered with a Lax Open graphic on it. And then the base is a unique colourway for the Burton Custom from this year, with Lax on the tail. So it's a pretty beautiful thing. And if you go on our Instagram, you'll see it. But it's too late, because I have decided who's going to win it. I thought it wasn't worth me keeping it. Some people said, oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing, hang it on your wall. But I don't want it to be a wall hanger. I want somebody to go snowboarding on it. So I decided that the way someone could win this was to, basically, you couldn't win it for yourself. You had to nominate someone that you thought deserved it. And that's a very subjective thing. And there were lots of people who I could have passed this board on to. But I got a message from, let me see, he is called Jerry Wildy on Instagram, at Jerry Wildy. And he was nominating his daughter, Kyra. And, hold on. So he nominated his daughter, Kyra Wildy. And basically, here's his message. I've been riding since 92, and after all the lads' trips, my daughter provided me with my most memorable trip to date, the TSA Shred Week in 2019. She's now training as an SEN teaching assistant. Needless to say, incredibly challenging physically and emotionally. Unfortunately, trips will now be limited to school holidays. She's now well and truly outgrown her original board and will be frothing to receive this. Now, there's a couple of things why I chose Kyra to win this board. She's training to be an SEN, and my kids have certainly benefited from SEN support at their schools. And it's an incredibly difficult job. And I imagine it's criminally underpaid, especially if you're only an assistant. And so that's one reason, because of how much I appreciate SEN workers in schools. And the other thing is that teachers, when we had the chalet, we always gave discounts to teachers in the busy period. Obviously, the peak weeks are the holiday weeks that the kids are off schools, which means that teachers end up paying the high season rates for their holidays. And as far as snowboarding goes, we had lots of teachers come and stay with us, and we made a decision to give all teachers that came during those peak weeks, even though like the detriment to our profit margin, we gave teachers a discount because we didn't feel it was fair that they're beholden to the kids' holidays. And, you know, we always thought, going during the kids' holidays is probably never the best weeks to go anyway, because the resorts are busy. So we figured it was worth giving teachers a discount. And so because of those reasons, that is why I've chosen Kyra, who was nominated by her dad, Jerry, to win the Lax Open Burton Custom 158. So Jerry or Kyra, if you're listening to this, then send me an email to thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com, and we'll get the board and the wheelie board bag provided by the TSA out to you ASAP. Congratulations. While we're talking about the TSA, they've got a sale on. If you need anything, then do go and check them out. They've got more knowledge than you can shake a stick at, and they've now got some good deals on kit. So yeah, definitely go and check them out. They've been keeping it real for a long, long time, and they're run by snowboarders for snowboarders, and they do a great job. So, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for basically making sure this project happened. Also got to say thanks to Dan and Lizzie at Burton for hooking me up with some kit this season. I've been mostly riding Burton stuff. Just out recently, I was riding a Daily Driver 3D with some EST cartel bindings, which were great. I also tried an old nug out because Chris Moran's got a collection of nugs, and really, really liked them. Basically, I'm just kind of down with Burton boards at the moment. I know there are people that might not be into that, but I am loving Burton kit at the moment. Works really well. So thank you, Dan and Lizzie, for helping me out with some kit. It is massively appreciated. Also, shout out to Tom Kingsnorth, Transformed Gloves, a legend as always. We love you, Tom, and can't wait to see you soon. Tom from Volcom, thank you for the care package, for giving me some nice kit. I'm head to toe in it at the moment. Always great. Volcom's been there since the start, and I hope it manages to sort out its problems and continue into the future. Also, shout out Chris Carr for hooking me up with Oakley. I hope we can do some more stuff together soon. And obviously, thank you to you, the listeners. I love your messages, and I appreciate all the feedback I get. It's great that people are finding this and being stoked to go snowboarding through it. As always, I'm on comms all summer, on the Instagram and on the email. If you want to get in touch, then please do. If you've got things that I think I need to know about, then please do let me know. It's thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com or on the Instagram at thankyouSnowboardingPodcast. The tune that Steve chose. Now, he's another one that can get away with choosing a tune, and it was from the End skateboard movie, but that's kind of all right. Maria Cork chose the propeller heads back on her episode. Certain skate movies are going to get a pass, and if the GOAT of British snowboarding says they want Under Pressure by Queen, which was a section from the End, I think it was Birdhouse movie, The End, and maybe I'll put a link to that in the show in the on the YouTube, which is Thank You Snowboarding. Basically, it's one of the all-time skate movies. If you've never seen that, well worth a watch. So yeah, Under Pressure, and then the Spotify playlist will be updated. If you've got any suggestions for that as well, favourite songs from Shred movies, then hit me up. You know where, and the Spotify playlist is on Spotify. Thank You Snowboarding. So I think we're there. Again, thank you for tuning in all this season. It's been a wild ride, and we've covered some of the most amazing stories from British snowboarding, from all aspects of it, and so many highlights. Please do feel free to share it around your mates to get them frothing as well. Obviously, the more listeners we've got, the more chance we have of getting people like the Prodigy who actually don't want to be on the show. But if you see them out of snowbombing, they're doing snowbombing at the moment. If anybody runs into the Prodigy, runs into Liam, say, why aren't you doing the Lanky Snowboarding podcast? I mean, fair enough, everyone's busy, but it would be great because the Prodigy were on board Stupid back in the day, and it would be good to talk to them. But yeah, if anyone's out of snowbombing and you bump into Liam Howlett from the Prodigy, ask him why he's not doing it, or tell him that he should do it. All right, I'm going to leave you with a chairlift chat with Tom's Kingsnorth. We'll be back in the autumn. Thank you for listening, and thank you, snowboarding. Peace. Right, tell the story of the 120 beers.
Yeah. So back in the day, when it was the Burton European Open,
So in Lax,
In
where we are
Lax.
now on a chairlift.
in beautiful Lux, we used to get beer tokens. So all the riders, all the media would get beer tokens.
Yeah.
And I would just collect them, you know, people were leaving. I'd be like, oh, can I have your beer tokens? Like, yeah, I don't need them, you know, I'm going home tonight. And we went to this bar, and the barman had a bit of an attitude, you know, he was like, I don't know what, like I wasn't rude to him or anything. He's just
You
taking
sure you
his-
weren't rude
no,
to
I'm
him?
pretty sure he just was not a fan of me. So I was like, do you know what, I'm going to get him back somehow. So I kept collecting the tokens, as you do. Last night, I was like, okay, he's like, ding, 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 last orders. I was like, I'd like 120 beers, please. And he's like, do what? I was like, you heard the vouchers. So he had them all laid out in a bar. And everyone thought it was hilarious. Like Jake Burton was there, Donna, and they were all laughing. Barman wasn't laughing, I'll tell you that.
Laughing.
And he's like, oh, can I have them in, can I give them to you in pictures to save time? And I was like, no, thank you. I think I'd like individual pints. So I don't think I made him pour 120 pints, but he definitely was in bed a bit later than he thought he was going to be. And I was just going up to people like, hey, have a beer.
Have a beer on me.
So yeah,
Legendary.
yeah, that was entertaining.
The fact that you get props off Jake Burton for doing it as
Yeah,
well.
but that's what he was like most of the times I'd meet him, it would be something legit like that would happen, you know.
Yeah.
He was like one of the boys, like he wasn't ever like too cool or whatever. You'd meet him and he'd be like, hey, let's have a shot, you know, he's a good bloke. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, apparently Jez never met him.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, isn't it, considering like all the years and the
I met
thousands of pounds of product that
Yeah.
Jez has shifted for him.
I didn't know him well, but I met him a couple of times, and yeah, it was always good times. I remember once I went to the US Open, and they used to have like a little party. They'd always say at Jake's house. I don't know if it was his house, but it was like definitely a private kind of thing, and all the riders were, you know, media were there and stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone was drinking tequila soda. And I was like, oh, it's quite a nice drink actually. But I'd never had it before, so I didn't know what it's like, a different tequila, whatever. And they run out of tequila, and someone was like, oh yeah, look, there's a bottle in that cupboard. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. I open up this cupboard, right? Got this bottle of tequila, start pouring myself a drink. And Jake comes up and he's like, you found my tequila. And I was like, yeah, thank you, it's lovely. And he's like, that's like, I think it was like $500 a bottle. And I'm like just pouring away. He didn't know who I was at that point as well. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. Someone just said like, that's the bottle. And he's like, no, it's fine. And he poured himself some and he's like, cheers. And he had a little drink. But I would have probably been pretty angry at some oik in my house drinking quite expensive tequila. But yeah, he didn't. So.
It reminds me of my wedding. Instead of having champagne, like we had our reception in a pub in Clerkenwell.
Nice.
Instead of having champagne, we had shots of tequila, like tequila slammers.
Oh.
So there was a bar with like 120 shots of tequila on it. And there was a guy there that fucking turned up, he wasn't invited, a friend of Cool Bass Props. And he was a menace and he was hammered.
The first
He
week.
went up to like Lucy's dad and was like, do you want a drink? It's a free bar. And like Lucy's dad was like, yeah, it's a free bar, Mum's all paying for it. Then he went up to one of Lucy's friends, this woman that she works with, who was quite a bit older. And he went up and just like in front of us was like, nice tits. And it was at that point I was like, mate, you got to get rid of this guy. He was like 6.5 foot tall, massive
Yeah.
blonde hair, like he was so conspicuous.
Yeah, didn't blend in.
No, not at all. He was that guy. You were that guy.
No, it wasn't that bad. I wasn't lurching on people's parents. But tequila slammer, I remember the first week I ever got to Austria, they had like the shilling, didn't know what it was, didn't know how much it was. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll try and impress everyone. I was like 17, I'll try and impress everyone by showing them how many tequila slammers I can drink in an evening.
That's a great
Basically,
idea.
yeah, I mean, obviously everyone was really impressed. I had to spend all my money not having a clue.
You basically walk into an alcoholics party to try and out-booze the alcoholics.
Yeah. They were like, we're not impressed. We had that for breakfast. So I woke up with no money and a hangover.
Mate, you fucking turning up in Meyerhofen in the summer in all your outerwear.
Yeah. I'd never been to a resort in before, like out of winter. So I don't know what I was thinking. I just assumed it was going to be hot.
Did your parents not like send you off? Like,
I don't know why they didn't say anything. Mate, I had literally thermals, outerwear on the plane. And you land and it's like 35 degrees, you know?
Yeah, of course it is.
I was swearing. I was like, mate, it's a bit hotter than I imagined. It wasn't like, oh, how about I take off this stuff and put on something else? I don't even think I brought shorts with me. Like, didn't have a clue what was going on. I'm surprised I made it through. It's only because of people like Chris Carr and Andy Irving, like Tim Ho looking out for me, basically. Showing me the ropes.
Now, there's something about that naivety, though, isn't there? Like, I had that on my first season. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
No. It's quite nice. I remember eating well. I thought that meant you were just full up. So I'd go out and buy like a massive bag of Pringles or something. And I was like, oh yeah, no. I'm like, well fed. I'm surprised I didn't get scurvy in my feet. Just literally didn't have a clue what was going on. Because, yeah, good old mum had looked after everything at that point.
Yes,
and
your mum.
I was like, right, I've flown the nest, don't have a clue what I'm doing. Going to turn up in my outerwear and eat crisps. Drink tequila slammers and... Yeah, it's not like that. Like the kids these days, like the 17 or 18-year-olds that come out and do seasons, like most of them don't drink. It's pretty cool. There's like different ways. They're all
Different
like,
energy, innit?
yeah. Quite respect that.
Well, I guess if you're certainly in the UK, if you're earning like fucking £8 an hour,
Yeah.
you're not going to then go and pay £7 for a pint, are you?
Yeah, I mean, if you earn £8 an hour here, like, what can you get? A Mars bar?
Yeah. Can't even get a bag of cookies in the no-name for
I
that.
don't know.
It's ridiculous.
True.